If your finance team spends more time finding data than using it, if there's one entity here and one there and one here and one there, if scaling your business feels like starting over, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite is the AI-native ERP solution that's powerful, painless, and proven. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP. We spend hours deciding what to buy, but there's a split-second decision that can make or break a sale. Do you have the trust to hit buy now? Agentic commerce is testing that moment more than ever. And that's where PayPal comes in. With 25 years of checkouts, 400 million consumer accounts globally, and the benefit of purchase and seller protection, all of which make sure wherever a purchase starts, it ends with trust. Built for payments, growth, and agentic. PayPal Open, built for all business. Visit paypalopen.com.
Purchase and seller protections on eligible transactions only. Terms apply. See paypal.com/risk-management for details.
Whatever your goal, trade show giveaways, client gifts, or team gear, 4imprint has the promo products to match. With thousands of options, from apparel and drinkware to tech and totes, it's easy to find the right fit for your brand and budget, with standout choices at every price point. And with their 360-degree guarantee, you can be 4imprint certain your order will show up just right on time. Explore more at 4imprint.com. 4imprint for certain. Pushkin. I am proud to say, a YIMBY. Yes, in my backyard. I have come to my YIMBiness recently, so I have all the zeal of the recently converted. YIMBY stands for building as much housing as is humanly possible, reforming stupid zoning laws, outdated building codes. YIMBY hates minimum lot sizes, setback zoning, mandatory parking requirements, rent control, anything that makes building new things more expensive. YIMBY thinks that when it comes to cities, America peaked around 1910, and we should just roll back the zoning clock 100 years. YIMBY walks through one of those absurdly picturesque New England villages or some breezy Southern California beach town. And by the way, YIMBY only ever walks, or maybe cycles. YIMBY never drives, and asks, where are the multifamily apartment buildings? My social media feed is basically just other YIMBYs. Shout out to Alicia, courtyard urbanist from Chicago, who posts something about how building European-style courtyard apartment buildings will save the American Republic every day. And I am so down for every one of those tweets. YIMBY stands at the intersection of righteous indignation and nerdiness, a street corner where I have lived my entire adult life. I am YIMBY. Hear me roar. So deep into this ever-expanding series on mistakes, I asked myself, what would YIMBY's idea of a mistake be? What error, what miscalculation would most enrage the universe of YIMBY? And upon consultations with my YIMBY comrades, I found it. A single line on a building code proposal filled out by a fire inspector in Glendale, Arizona, named Gregory A. Victor, concerning, wait for it, elevators. This is the story of the great American elevator tragedy.
Yeah, I could not find a high-income country that had fewer elevators per capita than the United States.
Meet one of the crown princes of YIMBY, my new best friend, Stephen Smith, director of the Center for Building in North America. He will guide us through the tangled history leading up to Mr. Victor's massive error.
Greece has about half the elevators that the United States does, which is pretty surprising since Greece has a population of around 10 million and the U.S. is, 340 million.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in Greece live in a little 4-story, 4-unit apartment building with a tiny little elevator.
This is Revisionist History, my podcast about things overlooked and misunderstood. Some of you may be thinking, I'm not seriously going to listen to half an hour on elevators, am I? And my answer to you is, oh, yes, you are. And at the end, you will turn to your loved ones and you will say, I too am now YIMBY. Hear me roar. What do your friends say about your elevator?
I wouldn't talk about building codes to friends.
Do you?
It's a good way to not have friends, you know?
Wait, you cannot be serious. You don't have long conversations with elevators with your friends.
Of course I do. I drive them nuts about it. Elevators, sometimes they'll ask a question about something and get a little fun fact for them, but it's not a good way to keep friends to talk about elevators technical standards.
Stephen, I am that exception. Should I ever be at a party with you?
We could be friends.
Should I ever be at a party with you? You have carte blanche to trap me in a corner and talk about elevators for 2 hours.
In a corner. Oh, I'm going to talk about something way more. So we're going to talk about like handrails or windows or, pushing it beyond elevators.
My producer is laughing in the background. The modern elevator is an American invention. The earliest elevators were made in the mid-19th century by Elisha Otis of Vermont, whose startup, Otis Elevators, remains one of the world's largest elevator companies. Otis installed the world's first commercial elevator in the Howard Building on the corner of Broadway and Broome Street in Manhattan's Soho, which still stands. The vertical city in New York that grew up around the Howard Building was made possible by Otis's invention. But at some point, between then and now, the era of American elevator dominance began to sputter. If you were an ordinary working American who lives in a split level out in the suburbs and works in an office park, maybe you didn't notice. But you know who did? YIMBY noticed. In particular, Stephen Smith. This goes back a few years, just after Smith had started a small YIMBY think tank, Center for Building in North America. He'd been a journalist, then real estate. But his true passion, he realized, lay elsewhere. Building codes.
I mean, academia doesn't study building codes. The more prestigious you are as an academic architect, the more esoteric you're getting and, degrowth theory and, things that are kind of divorced from the actual practice of putting one brick on another and nail in a piece of wood. So, academia didn't cover it. I don't know who else was going to get into it. And you don't really get into construction because you love reading and writing. So there's just not a whole lot written about it. So I decided to do it myself.
He raised money, set up shop, and right away, something caught his eye.
There was it was a post on back when it was called Twitter. It was still good for this kind of thing that went viral with some developer who had built a little 3-story, 12-unit apartment building in Minneapolis and was sort of bragging about, it's pretty affordable. And he was kind of listing, he was talking about the simplicity of the project. It's like, doesn't have any parking, great. Doesn't have an elevator. And it kicked up sort of like a firestorm on Twitter of, elevator, what about disabled? I guess disabled people can just go and die, whatever. And I remember thinking like, well, 3-story building in America, I mean, they never have elevators. That's not that unusual. But at the time, I happened to be in France. I was thinking, well, wait a minute. A new 3-story building in France generally does have an elevator. So why is that? And I asked my friend who's the architect, how much does an elevator cost in Italy for a 3-story building? And he was like, I don't know, 20, 30,000 euros. I said, well, there must be some misunderstanding. There's no way an elevator costs 20 or 30,000 euros in Italy. That doesn't make any sense. That's a small fraction. In the US, that would be, I don't know, $120,000, $150,000.
Why on earth would an elevator be 5 times the cost in America as it is in Europe? He went back home, moved apartments, and suddenly the question was all he could think about. So you live in Brooklyn?
I live in Brooklyn. I live in a 5-story building. There are 2 units on each floor. It's on a very small lot. It's on a lot that's roughly, the footprint of the building is about 1,200 square feet, and there are 5 stories, 7 apartments over a very popular vintage store.
What floor are you on?
I'm on the 3rd floor. And in Europe, it would have been hard to stick an elevator in the building, but you could have done it. I've seen floor plans from France, especially. They're very good at sticking a little spiral staircase and a very small elevator. You could have gotten an elevator in the building. There is no way in hell you could have gotten an elevator in the building with anything even conceivably close to our current rules. But in France, they would have done it. In France, this building would have an elevator, I believe.
And for Stephen, this was a problem. And with the result that when you had a period of your life, as I read in the elevator report, where you were effectively disabled.
Yes, I had some mysterious virus in 2017, turned out to be this sort of long COVID-like illness, obviously not from COVID because it was 2017. And yeah, I still do have a disease called POTS, where you stand up and your heart rate goes wild, a lot of fatigue, probably an autoimmune disease that has not really been understood very well yet. And yeah, it was difficult. There were definitely days where what happens is when you exert yourself, you pay for it physically in kind of intense ways. You get sort of brain fog and extreme fatigue. You might sleep 12, 13 hours a day. And so, yeah, there were days when I think it would have been nice to go for a walk and I didn't because I was on the third floor.
Yeah. In one of the most desirable neighborhoods in the wealthiest city in the premier country in the world, there is a brand new apartment building that is effectively off limits, segregated from anyone who is not fit enough to walk up multiple flights of stairs. And why? Because the United States has somehow given up on the widespread adoption of a technology that it invented 150 years ago. But your building, no old person could ever move into your building.
I think I'm the oldest person who lives in the building.
How old are you?
37.
I mean, I
think I'm the oldest.
Stephen, this whole thing is just nuts. Yes, it is nuts. Smith spent 2 years trying to answer the question of why Americans gave up on the elevator. The result, entitled Elevators, is maybe the most comprehensive and I'm not just saying this because I'm YIMBY, fascinating exploration of a topic that I'm guessing few of you have ever thought about. 122 pages, beginning with a sentence right out of some 19th century novel. In late 2020, tired of my old Brooklyn apartment, historic and charming, but loud and full of maintenance hassles, I put my co-op unit on the market and set out to buy a new condo.
If you want all of your data in one place, if you want a single home for all of your entities, if you want to spend more time working and less time searching, you need the Intuit ERP. I know because I'm Damon John, and I run my growing business on Intuit Enterprise Suite, the AI native ERP that's powerful, painless, and proven. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Liberty was never just a word. It has guided every American endeavor for the past 250 years. And now it takes form in a new way. The 2026 Semi-Quincentennial Coin and Medal Program from the United States Mint celebrates the founding ideals that have long shaped our coinage. Available 1 year only, this historic collection features new coin designs, limited edition releases, and reissues. Shop new official coins at usmint.gov/semiq. That's usmint.gov/SEMIQ. We spend hours researching products online and deciding what to buy, but there's a split-second decision that can make or break a sale. Do you have the trust to hit the Buy Now button? The way we discover and compare things is evolving, happening faster, and influenced by new forms of intelligent advice. But the underlying trust question doesn't go away. If anything, it's more important than ever. That's where PayPal comes in. For more than 25 years, they've been a trusted way to pay. And now PayPal can make the agentic era of commerce work for merchants, letting them maintain control of their brand, their customer relationships. So even as the way we shop changes, the moment that matters most still feels familiar and deeply dependable. Built for payments, growth, and agentic. PayPal Open, built for all business. Visit paypalopen.com to get started.
Purchase and seller protections on eligible transactions only. Terms apply. See paypal.com/risk-management for details.
Some of the reasons why American elevators are so expensive are not surprising. Chapter 4 of Smith's magnum opus is entitled Labor. Labor is the elephant in the room of the elevator industry, he writes. The workforce that builds and maintains elevators is small and specialized and highly unionized. And nowhere are those things more true than in the United States. The most cost-effective way to build an elevator is to assemble the whole thing in a factory, then ship it to the building site and drop it in with a crane. That's what they do in Europe. But in the United States, the elevator union insists on assembling the elevators themselves. So everything is assembled in the factory, shipped to the building site, then disassembled and put back together in the cramped confines of the elevator shaft.
Where it's really bad is the sort of sister industry of the elevators, which is the escalators. I mean, an escalator truly is almost fully assembled in a factory abroad and then craned onto site. And in North America, you're taking it apart. There was this, I found a sort of newsletter from the IUEC, the North American Union, where the guy who runs it, or, another general president or something, is sort of bragging to his membership. He's trying to promote his leadership. And he says, you don't know how hard it is to convince an arbitrator that, you got to take apart this escalator.
At that point, we were interrupted.
I apologize. Somebody's ringing my doorbell.
Okay,
One second. Okay. I don't know whether that package was for me, but they're going to leave it in the lobby because I don't have an elevator in my building.
Where were we? This is like my kids with their Magna tiles, their Lego. Like they, at the end of the day, they take whatever they built and they smush it.
Yeah.
And then they rebuild it the next day. Yes. Exactly like my kids with their Magna tiles.
There are parts of the elevator I've seen in settlement agreements or lawsuits. Most of this stuff happens behind closed doors or literally in a tight shaft, and you don't get a lot of insight into it. But you see it in court cases and in settlement agreements that should not be posted online, but are sometimes. And there's this one arbitration case or legal case, I don't know what it was, where they're saying something like, it's common practice for us to take something apart and put it back together, but you need to prove that you took it apart, because otherwise, what's to say you didn't just hang out playing on your cell phone in the shaft? And so, the practice is for you to sign your name on the part. So if you take it apart, the manager can see, you really took it apart.
Now, as crazy as this is, it doesn't really answer the question. Yes, the elevator unions are stronger in the U.S. than Europe. Elevator technicians get paid more. American elevator workers insist on doing dumb things like taking apart already built elevators, like small children with their Magna tiles. But none of these things explain why an American elevator would be 5 times more expensive than its European counterpart. There has to be an even more important reason. And oh yes, there is.
European cabins are roughly half. Let's say for a new 6-story apartment building with a couple of units per floor, the cabin size in Europe is about half the size. Really, the whole rest of the world is about half the size that it is in the US and Canada. And that's because, number one, they don't require space for, it's for accessibility, but exactly what it is never really written down, but probably something like a turning radius for a wheelchair. The European one will accommodate a wheelchair. In fact, that's what it's designed for. But you'll probably have to either back in or back out, one or the other.
In Europe, Stephen Smith's building would have an elevator because Europeans are willing to live with pint-sized elevators. In America, we aren't. Which seems to make good sense, right? Because what if you had a heart attack and you're on a stretcher? You'd want your exit from your 5th-floor apartment to be as speedy and efficient as possible. Except that in insisting that elevators be really large, for those very rare occasions when a large elevator would be really convenient, you make the elevator so bulky that it can't fit in a lot of smaller buildings, and so expensive that no one trying to build affordable housing has the means to put an elevator in their building. With the result that if you're in a wheelchair, you simply can't live in Stephen Smith's building. And if you have a heart attack on the 5th floor, the medics are going to have to drag you down 5 flights of stairs. Have you ever heard the expression, the perfect is the enemy of the good? This is American elevator policy. This is like saying, too many people are dying in car accidents. Let's mandate that everyone has to drive to the store in a tank. Problem solved, right? Well, that problem solved. But now you have a million other bigger problems, like massively congested highways, torn up roads, no parking, and most of all, since a tank costs $50 million. Only super rich people would be able to drive to the store. In the spirit of trying to make the world a fairer place, we've made the world in this one dimension and a much less fair place.
I would say so. Yes. If you're sort of elderly, maybe you'll go into cardiac arrest, and it would be helpful to have an elevator that can accommodate a fully flat stretcher. So, someone can continue to do chest compressions on you while you go down. But, most people will never be in that situation, or frankly, if they are, they'll die anyway. The out-of-hospital cardiac arrest survival rate is very low. But pretty much everyone gets to a point, or at least if you're lucky in life, where you can't really use the stairs, but you could, stand with a walker in a small elevator. So yeah, we really look for these edge cases, try to solve them, and then kind of throw our hands up when people don't have elevators at all and say, well, it's just a greedy developer or whatever, and just kind of ignore the underlying economics of the situation, which was that if you make the elevator 3 to 4 times expensive, you get a lot fewer elevators.
Trying to get to perfect when good is good enough is a mistake. And the road to mega elevators was lined with 100 mistakes made over many years. But the one that really provoked my YIMBY ire was the mistake detailed on page 50 of Stephen Smith's Elevators. Section 3.3.2. Committed in the heedless pursuit of perfection by a certain Gregory A. Victor, fire inspector of Glendale, Arizona. If your finance team spends more time finding data than using it, if there's one entity here and one there and one here and one there, if scaling your business feels like starting over, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite is the AI-native ERP solution that's powerful, painless, and proven. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP. Liberty was never just a word. It has guided every American endeavor for the past 250 years. And now it takes form in a new way. The 2026 Semi-Quincentennial Coin and Medal Program from the United States Mint celebrates the founding ideals that have long shaped our coinage. Available 1 year only, this historic collection features new coin designs, limited edition releases, and reissues. Shop new official coins at usmint.gov/semiq. That's usmint.gov/SEMIQ. We spend hours researching products online and deciding what to buy, but there's a split-second decision that can make or break a sale. Do you have the trust to hit the Buy Now button? The way we discover and compare things is evolving, happening faster and influenced by new forms of intelligent advice. But the underlying trust question doesn't go away. If anything, it's more important than ever. That's where PayPal comes in. For more than 25 years, they've been a trusted way to pay. And now PayPal can make the agentic era of commerce work for merchants, letting them maintain control of their brand, their customer relationships. So even as the way we shop changes, the moment that matters most still feels familiar and deeply dependable. Built for payments, growth, and agentic. PayPal Open, built for all business. Visit paypalopen.com to get started.
Purchase and seller protections on eligible transactions only. Terms apply. See paypal.com/risk-management for details.
You want to design an apartment building in, say, Topeka, Kansas. You can't just put the stairs and windows and the fire exits wherever you want. You have to adhere to a set of common standards. And those standards are found in a very big book, written and maintained and updated by a nonprofit called the International Code Council, based in Washington, D.C., in one of those bland office buildings not far from the Capitol.
Anytime you see an international in a word in the United States related to construction, it's a lie. It's the U.S. building code, but it's called the International Building Code, the IBC. It has international aspirations. Everywhere in the country used to have its own building code, more or less, and then they've sort of become homogenized, harmonized over time. And so now there's a national code called the International Building Code, which forms the basis and really the vast, vast majority of every code.
If you walk down a street and hate the way modern buildings look, or you don't understand why corridors in the hallway of your apartment building are so long, then you have a problem with the International Code Council. The ICC is one of those shadowy groups that no one has ever heard about that writes the rules of the modern world. And the document that they have so grandiosely named the International Building Code is, crucially, not set in stone. Interested parties can propose amendments. Those amendments can be voted on by a special committee or by the general members of the ICC. The International Building Code is not like the Constitution of the United States, which was last amended in 1992 based on a proposal first made in 1789. You need a war or a couple of centuries to change the U.S. Constitution. Not so the International Building Code. It is a living document. And one of those people who set out to take advantage of this fact was Gregory A. Victor of the Glendale Fire Department. Greg Victor had white blonde hair, mustache, aviator glasses. He grew up in the Phoenix area, served in the Air Force as an electrician at Bin Hoa Air Force Base during the Vietnam War, came home and became a fire inspector for the Glendale, Arizona Fire Department, retiring as the city's fire marshal in 2007. Quote, he was the driving force behind the fire safety codes that are used in Glendale today, his obituary reads. On a national level, he was instrumental in passing fire code to assure firefighters' safety in skyscrapers after 9/11. Let me just say that we of the YIMBY movement have no beef with Greg Victor personally. He served his country, his community, his profession. I am quite sure he was a fine and upstanding man. But he wanted perfection, and he didn't understand that perfection comes with what is sometimes an unbearable cost. So this guy, so we have a someone who cares, who is passionate about elevators.
Yeah. He says, at the time, elevators were made to accommodate stretchers that are 6 feet, 4 inches long. And he says, well, they're building a stadium in my jurisdiction.
He files an amendment with the International Building Code.
At the time, I don't believe Glendale had any apartment buildings with elevators. Maybe it had one or two. It had very few, if any. It still has very few, if any. And he said, the elevator is not going to accommodate our stretchers. And I think that's maybe true in some sense, like when it's fully flat and extended. I find it difficult to believe that it did not accommodate a stretcher in any sense. I mean, stretchers do sort of prop up a bit. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're a bit collapsible. But in any case, he did not feel it adequately accommodated the stretcher. So he said, the code should just say that the elevator must accommodate whatever stretcher the jurisdiction's got. And this is not in the report. And I want to say, don't quote me, but I'm saying it in a public forum. So whatever, I'll just say it. What I was told was at the time, the elevator industry, this was in the early 2000s, the elevator industry had their own event. And so there weren't a lot of people from the elevator industry to push back. So there was some technical committee that's supposed to review this proposal. That's, I think, the most informed people in the process generally. And they said, well, there's two things wrong with this. Number one, we can't just say it's got to accommodate the biggest stretcher you've got. I mean, they didn't say this, but what if someone orders a 20-foot stretcher? I mean, the lack of standardization is just going to drive everyone crazy. But secondly, you didn't really prove anything exactly. Like, what is the harm? Can you try to weigh the cost and benefits? That wasn't done. So he comes back in another round when it's a little more, this is sort of a quasi-democratic body, so all the building officials can vote. And he's, okay, well, the technical committee said no, but I come to you, the membership, and say, well, I'll fix it. So, okay, it's not going to be any size. It's just going to be 7 feet. I mean, ours are, I think he said, theirs are, I don't remember, 6'7", 6'8". So, 7 feet will be big enough to, I don't know, have an oxygen tank on the end or something like that. And it passed.
The United States already had the biggest elevators in the world, the most expensive elevators in the world, elevators so big and so expensive that whenever someone was putting up a small apartment building or an affordable apartment building, they look at the numbers and shrug and say, F it, we'll just go with stairs. And along comes Greg Victor of Glendale, Arizona, and proposes to the most powerful body in the whole world of building codes Let's make them even bigger and even more expensive. Let's make them 7 feet long. So he comes back and with an amendment saying, okay, just make it 7 feet.
Right,
and
right. 7 feet.
He takes that to the
sort of the broader membership, but he kind of makes this emotional case. Imagine if it was you. And there's always an emotional appeal in building codes and standards. I mean, sometimes it's about fire. In this case, it wasn't fire. In this case, it was, being, going into cardiac arrest and someone couldn't perform compressions on you, or you get some sort of musculoskeletal injury from falling in a bathtub, whatever. Something could happen. So it's an emotional appeal. And the issue with emotional appeals is they don't weigh things very well.
You can look it up. International Building Code, Code Change Number G143-0304, Section 3002.4. The International Building Code Amendment Form is divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is where you write a paragraph explaining your change. Part 2 is where you give your reasons. And Part 3 is cost impact. And do you know what Greg Victor answers to the cost impact question? None. N-O-N-E. Oh, Greg. No! Revisionist History is produced by Nina Bird Lawrence, Lucy Sullivan, and Ben Nadaf Haffrey. Our editor is Karen Shakurji. Fact-checking by Angelie Mercado. Our executive producer is Jacob Smith. Engineering by Nina Bird Lawrence. Original music by Luis Guerra. Sound design and mastering by Marcelo de Oliveira. I'm Malcolm Gladwell.
If you want all of your data in one place, if you want a single home for all of your entities, if you want to spend more time working and less time searching, you need the Intuit ERP. I know because I'm Damon John, and I run my growing business on Intuit Enterprise Suite, the AI native ERP that's powerful, painless, and proven. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Whatever your goal, trade, show, giveaways, client gifts, or team gear, 4imprint has the promo products to match. With thousands of options, from apparel and drinkware to tech and totes, it's easy to find the right fit for your brand and budget, with standout choices at every price point. And with their 360-degree guarantee, you can be 4imprint certain your order will show up just right on time. Explore more at 4imprint.com. 4imprint, for certain. Liberty was never just a word. It has guided every American endeavor for the past 250 years. And now it takes form in a new way. The 2026 Semi-Quincentennial Coin and Medal Program from the United States Mint celebrates the founding ideals that have long shaped our coinage. Available 1 year only, this historic collection features new coin designs, limited edition releases, and reissues. Shop new official coins at usmint.gov/semiq. That's usmint.gov/SEMIQ.